63rd pick, the Buffalo Bills select Deion Dawkins, tackle.
The Buffalo Bills select Tre'Davious White, LSU.
Matt Milano, linebacker.
Harrison Phillips, Stanford.
Ron Neal, safety.
Jermaine Edmonds, linebacker.
Aaron Johnson, defensive back.
Josh Allen, quarterback, Wyoming.
The Buffalo Bills select Cody Ford.
Dawson Knox.
Devin Singletary, running back. Ed Oliver, Houston.
Buffalo Bills select Zach Moss, running back. A.J. Epinesa, wideout Gabriel Davis.
All right, here we go. With the 61st pick in the 2021 draft, the Buffalo Bills select Carlos Basham Jr., Wake Forest University, defensive end.
Welcome into our Bills Draft Special presented by Highmark, the official health plan of the Buffalo Bills. I'm Maddy Glab, and I'm joined by Bills insider Chris Brown. We would officially like to welcome the newest Buffalo Bill, Carlos Basham Jr., out of Wake Forest. His nickname, Boogie.
Time to Boogie.
Basham, because he loves to dance.
That's right. And
what are you thinking?
I'm a little surprised,
right?
Because I think a lot of us felt, okay, they addressed edge. Where else are they going to go? They went right back to the edge rush. So
edge.
Loading up there on the pass rush side of the ledger. Now, here's where Carlos Boogie Basham is different from Greg Rousseau. This is an experienced player, a 3-year starter, had a big 11-sack season as a junior in 2019, and then in a 7-game season last year had a 5-sack season. But this guy is a tackle for loss machine. He had tackles for loss in 23 straight games at one point, which was the longest streak in the country over the last 2 or 3 years. But here's the thing. The guy has heavy hands. Mm-hmm. He's a 273-pound guy. And just looking at him on tape, just some of the notes that I wrote down after I looked at him are the following. Plays hard from start to finish on every single snap. Good vision to spot the quarterback when he leaves the pocket. He slides back under the belly of the pocket and makes plays in pursuit secondarily when the quarterback gets flushed, and nonstop pursuit of the quarterback in space. He has a knack. He's got this thing where if he knows he's going to be double teamed, he'll back off the line to create space between him and the offensive lineman and then spot the ball. And if the quarterback leaves, he'll beat him to the spot and create space between him and the lineman so he doesn't just get caught up there and stalemated. It's really a unique way to address the pass rush. I think his hands are great, and this is a player who is experienced against the run, okay? Mm-hmm. He knows how to set the edge. He knows how to play strong against the run game. That's something that Rousseau is still working on. So this is a more experienced edge rusher who I think could push for some playing time on rundowns even as a rookie.
Yeah, and some of the notes that I wrote when I was watching him was strong hands, strong hands, strong hands. Dude is great against the run and doesn't give up. He's an athletic defensive end, and in the games that he played in 2020, which weren't many, 28 total tackles, 5.5 TFLs, 5 sacks, and it's not like he didn't play in many because he was injured. He didn't play in many because of 2020, the COVID-19 season that saw a lot of college football seasons be shortened. He recorded at least 1 sack in 13 of his last 16 games played, including 1 in all 5 games in 2020. Listen to this. He had the longest active streak in the country of 23 consecutive games with a tackle for loss. He was the only player in the country to have a streak in double digits when his streak ended. And you talk about the body of work that this kid has put together as a redshirt senior. He's not your young Greg Rousseau who's only had 15 games of experience, who has a huge upside. Carlos Basham Jr. has played in 45 games. He's a redshirt senior. That means he spent a good amount of time in college learning about the game. This kid comes out of college and has a bigger body of work than someone like Greg Rousseau, who could add to this Bills defensive line right away, not necessarily in a starting role, but add in a percentage of what is needed for him on the defensive line. He's 6'3", 9 1/4 inch hands.
Right. And so some people might be saying, well, if this guy's got the better body of work, why did he not go higher in the draft? What led to him being still on the board here at 61? most of the people feel athletically he's a little stiff in his hips. This is not a guy that can drop into the short zones in coverage on a zone blitz scheme. So while he is a powerful player, a great player going forward, the stiffness in his hips prevents him from giving you a drop in coverage type player. But what he does give you is some scheme versatility from this standpoint. His coach would kick him inside, reduce him down inside on pass rushing situations. He would rush from an interior position because at 274 pounds, I mean, you saw, I mean, our viewers are watching. It's a kid's solid from top to bottom, solid frame, and can handle the inside assignments and did a very good job of that. So be interesting to see what Brandon Beane says in terms of how they're going to use him.
Yeah, all right. To help us break down Carlos Basham even more, we would like to welcome in NFL Films senior producer Greg Cosell, who's on with us. Greg, thanks for taking the time to be on. We know you have watched so much tape on all of these prospects, including one Boogie Basham. So what stands out about what he's able to do on the defensive line, and why do you think he fits in with the Buffalo Bills and what Leslie Frazier and Eric Washington have to offer on that defensive line?
Well, Maddy, Chris, good seeing you. Chris, you're probably getting tired of me, huh?
Never.
You know, it's really funny. We talked earlier today, and Maddy, you were not there, obviously. I was talking to Steve and Chris about a type of player. They drafted A.J. Espinosa last year. They drafted Gregory Rousseau in the first round. Carlos Basham really fit into the exact same kind of category. He's a defensive end by trade, but Chris was just speaking about this. You can reduce him down inside where he might be better. He's really more speed to power than quickness and flexibility, but he's got a ton of experience. I actually know someone who was on the Wake Forest staff who's now with an NFL team who says he's an unbelievably great kid. So you're seeing kind of the type that the Bills are looking for. They're looking for class acts and clearly guys who can play both outside and inside and give them position versatility and front versatility. So he's to me, he's a really solid type player. And the reason he's a second round pick is because he's not an explosive, dynamic guy that you're going to say, wow, you get him and he's going to get 18 sacks. He's just a really solid down in, down out player, plays with great intensity, highly competitive, outstanding playing personality. And he's just another one of those guys.
And a team captain as well, Greg, as we know. But can you just outline how he plays against the run? A lot of the times, you know, fans see highlights and it's him chasing down the quarterback for sacks, but maybe just outline how he fares against the run.
Well, his game is built on really playing off contact, and he plays with strong hands. But it's funny you asked me that, Chris, because I did make a note, and I actually pulled up my notes. Obviously, I'm at home now, and I said, while Basham at times flashed strong hands, he needs that element to be a more foundational part of his game versus the run. So I think that it's there within him. I just think that he needs to do it more often. And my guess is he's a very coachable player. But the traits are there to be a physical point of attack player in the run game.
Yeah, so you look at his physical traits, what he was able to do at Wake Forest in those 45 games that he was on the field. How do you see this translating into the NFL? Where do you think he can really make a difference or shine? Maybe not in year one, but possibly in year two when we see him get some true playing time.
You know, I think that there's not a lot of mystery, Maddy, to what he is. I think that he's not all of a sudden going to become a dynamic, explosive, flexible, bendy athlete. I think what he ultimately becomes is one of those players that over time uses his hands really well, is able to win with speed to power, is able to play off contact, both in the run game and as a pass rusher. And you can reduce him down inside, as I heard Chris say before I joined you guys. I think that's something that they're obviously well aware of. He did that at Wake Forest. So in a sense, they have three players now, in Vanessa, Rousseau, and Basham, that can both line up on the outside as they continue to gain more experience, and that can also reduce inside and give them pass rush against guards and centers, and ideally give them mismatches. That's the goal. You know, we always think of mismatches with receivers versus corners or backs on linebackers, but you're also looking for mismatches. You know, when you're predominantly a four-man pass rush team, And this is the Bills. I mean, they're not a low percentage blitz team, but they're certainly not a very high percentage blitz team relative to the rest of the league. And you're counting on your 4-man rush. You're looking for mismatches. You're looking to try to create one-on-ones where you feel you can win. And I think that that's what they've tried to establish with Epinesa, Rousseau, and Basham, because you can reduce all three inside where they can work against guards and centers.
And then quickly, Greg, do you feel like Basham has enough athleticism where he can offer them something on special teams?
The one thing I don't know, and you might know this, Chris, because, and I'm just being totally honest, I just don't have time in my life to study special teams. So I don't know if he played
That's a good thing.
I don't know if he played. Do you know, did he play special teams?
I don't know. I haven't been able to find anything on it. I mean, I guess I would have to. I mean, it's hard to find special teams cut-ups, quite frankly, for me. It's probably easier for
I don't
someone
know
like
if
you.
I don't know if he did earlier in his career. It wouldn't surprise me if he did, because I think he's that kind of guy from what I've heard. But, you know, once you start getting in the 275-pound range, 280-pound range, I know some people even believe that I spoke to that he would even be better if he just gained a few pounds and got to 280, maybe 282, and just stayed as an inside player. So I don't know how the Bills see that. You know, that's a Brandon Beane question.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I have spoken to some people who believe he could be really effective as an inside player, because while he doesn't have the true quickness to be an edge player, the quickness then would be there if you reduced him inside full time. He was working against guards and centers who obviously are not as athletic as offensive tackles. So if you get him up to that, if they see him that way, then he's probably not going to be a special teams player.
I've got one last question for you. When you look at the defensive line and the Buffalo Bills and how they drafted the type of player in A.J. Epinesa and Greg Rousseau and now Carlos Basham Jr., what type of defensive line are you seeing the Buffalo Bills form? Now, I know you're not in the meetings and you're not Eric Washington or Leslie Frazier, but from the outside looking in, what type of defensive line does this look like?
Well, Matt, it's interesting because the one thing you could say they're lacking is the true edge rusher who can bend with great flexibility. Now, clearly, they don't seem to think, and far be it from me to say they're right or wrong. I mean, I don't do that. I don't rip coaches or coaching staffs. They have a belief and they have a philosophy, but clearly they don't feel that getting that motorcycle lean guy on the edge is an absolute high priority because of the players they've chosen to draft, unless they just didn't feel those guys were available, or they didn't feel they wanted to give up draft capital to get that guy. But just looking at these three players that you mentioned that we've spoken about, they're all a particular type, and they're the same type. So they must feel that that type works for how they want to structure their defensive front.
I like it. It's pretty interesting. Some youth at the defensive line position. Greg Rousseau on night 1 and Carlos Basham on night 2. Greg Cosell, thanks so much for adding into the conversation everything that you know about this prospect and how he could fit on this defense. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Craig. Thank you.
All right, so there's everything that we need to know about Carlos Basham, and I also want to get your take on this. You know, you see A.J. Epinesa, you see Greg Rousseau, you see Carlos Basham now. How do you envision this defensive line of the future for the Buffalo Bills? You've covered this team for so many years. You know Jerry Hughes, you know Mario Addison, you know how they're getting older, but the youth on this defensive line paints a little bit of a different picture.
It's going to light a fire under the veterans because you got a lot of young guys behind you in the pipeline now that are going to be battling for playing time. I thought Greg's most interesting comment was some of what he's heard from some scouts around the league, that Basham might be better off bulking up to about 280, and then you put him down inside in pass rush situations, which is what he did in college with great success at 273. So 10 more pounds, does it make a difference? Does he lose anything off his get-off? You know, these are things that are going to have to be discussed, and it'll be very interesting to see what Brandon Beane thinks of Carlos Basham and where he anticipates him lining up. Is he a pure edge, or is he a guy that's going to reduce down? We heard him talking about Greg Rousseau doing that, but, you know, you've got a situation here where Basham's body type is very similar to Mario Addison's. Thick all the way through, power, you know, speed to power type rusher. So he's a Mario Addison prototype. That's kind of what he's like. So will they leave him on the edge? Will they kick him inside some? We'll wait for Brandon Beane at the end of the night tonight to let us know. Now, Maddy, while we're sitting here talking about Carlos Boogie Basham, I regret to inform you that the Kansas City Chiefs have drafted Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma. So an offensive line that already has Orlando Brown at left tackle and Joe Tooney at left guard could now be plugging Creed Humphrey in at center. Unbelievable that the Chiefs have just almost completely retooled their offensive line. If they get one more offensive tackle, I may get nauseous.
Well, we're going to see how this all plays out. The Buffalo Bills have one more pick tonight. It's the 93rd pick in the 3rd round. And 9:41 is your time on Friday night. We appreciate you sticking with us. Tune in because we're also going to hear from Carlos Basham. We're going to hear from our 3rd round pick and Brandon Beane at the end of the night. So don't go anywhere. Just chill on the couch, watch some more of the NFL draft, and then come hang out with us. We're going to be here. We'll see you guys in a couple hours, maybe an hour. Who knows? We'll see you sometime.